It's Mahia May.
Yo, what's up, y'all? It's your boy Danny Mahia, aka Mahia Made. Today, I'm gonna be showing y'all how to make this Nas Magic-inspired Soulful boom bap beat. So, let's get into it. All right, y'all, so let's start digging into the breakdown. The first thing we're gonna start off with are the drums. So the first thing we have is this kick right over here. For this kick, I wanted to add some type of variation, so as you guys can tell, there are some velocity edits down here. Also, if I zoom into the pattern, you guys can see that the kicks are not fully quantized. If y'all want that authentic boom bap feel, y'all gotta make sure y'all leave some of that swing. Next up, I went ahead and added this snare. After I added the kick and snare, I wanted to add a steady hi-hat, so I went ahead and added this right here. And for the hi-hats as well, I did add some velocity variation, and one easy way you guys can accomplish that is by hitting Option R. If you guys hit Option R, y'all will see that you get this levels menu right over here. What you want to do is basically adjust the velocity to however much you guys want to do it. And then what I like to do to keep adding even more variation, I like to skim through the seed setting, and it'll give you a bunch of different variations of velocity, like this, for example. Next up, I did want to add some texture to the drum, so I went ahead and added this lo-fi noise. Next up, I added this open hat. And this open hat is being triggered by the snare. So basically what that means is whenever the snare hits, the open hat immediately stops. So now when we put everything together, this is what the drums sound like. For the verse sections, I did want to add some variation in the drums, so I went ahead and added this ride loop. For the rides, I did end up EQing them just to make them fit a lot more with the other drum samples. So what I did is deduct some of that low end down to 168 hertz, and then I took off some of that top end down to 8.5 kilohertz. So now let's start digging into the effects for the drums. The first thing I did is start off with the kick. What I ended up doing is deducting a lot of that top end. If I go ahead and put this setting back to normal, we can hear what I deducted. And after. So as you guys can see, basically what this EQ ended up doing is just making the kick sound a lot more lo-fi. As you guys can see, when I put it back to normal, there's this like hissing sound on top of the kick, and that wasn't really adding to the feel that I wanted from this beat. Next up, let's go ahead and move on to the snare. What I ended up doing is boosting a little bit of that bass section over at 201 hertz. And then I also boosted some of that top end around 4400 hertz. And now to really make the drums mesh well together, I did end up routing every drum sample over to this drums channel right over here. So let's go ahead and start digging into the effects. First off, what we have is this fruity balance. All it's doing is deducting some volume by 1.3 decibels. Next up, what really makes the drum smack is this J37 plugin by Waves. I left the formula at 815, the speed at 15 LPS, and I put the bias setting to +5. Next up, to glue everything together, I use the G Master Bus Compressor by Waves. I put the attack at the highest setting, the release at the fastest setting, and I put the ratio to 2:1. And then finally, I adjusted the threshold just to get about 2 to 3 decibels of compression. So let's go ahead and hear what the drums sound like before and after. So before and after. So as we can see, it is a very subtle difference, but I do like how that Waves J37 plugin added just a little bit more low into the drums. So after I had the foundation for the beat, which is the drums, it was time to find and chop up a sample. I ended up finding my sample from Splice because for Magic, Hit Boy did end up using a Splice sample for Speechless. Y'all can go ahead and look that up. So I was just going through the different Splice samples and I ended up coming across this one. Let's listen to what it sounds like. So to chop up this sample, I did use Serato sample, obviously. There are two things I did to this sample. The first thing, I took down the key -2 semitones, And the next thing, which I think is probably the most important part, was I took off the vocals from the sample. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn on this setting and let's listen to what the sample originally sounded like. So after I had found the sample, reduced it by -2 semitones, and then also took off the vocals from the sample, this is what the chops ended up being. So let's quickly dig into the effects. First off, what we have is this G Master bus compressor by Waves once again. This one is doing a very, very small amount of compression. Honestly, I don't even know why I added it in there. It's really not doing anything. Next up, what I added is this fruity parametric EQ. As you guys can see, it does deduct a lot of that bass out. The reason I did this is because once the verse section comes in, I wanted to just add some variation to the sample. And then lastly, I took off a lot of that very, very low end all the way up to 21 hertz. So that was pretty much the basis for the beat. I could have just left the beat there and just finished it off, but I wanted to add just a little bit more ear candy to the beat just to make it just a little bit more interesting. So I went ahead and added these bells. So for these bells, the VST I use comes from BBC Symphony Orchestra. I used a tuned percussion preset. And then I went ahead and chose the glockenspiel. Because the bell just sounded way too clean coming straight off the VST, I did have to add some plugins just to add to that boom bap feel, that old school feel of the beat. So the first thing I added is this cassette plugin. I used the Torley Mellow My Harsh preset. Next up, I wanted to reduce some more of that top end, so I went ahead and added this RX 950 plugin. And then I took down the audio bandwidth all the way to 10,000 hertz. And now for the final sound, I added this scratch loop. For the scratch loop, once again, it had just a little bit too much top end. So I did reduce some top end down to 8,000 kilohertz. So that was it for this beat, you guys. That's how y'all can make a Nas Magic inspired beat. I'm gonna go ahead and play the beat in full just so we can hear everything in context. All right, y'all, so that was it for this beat breakdown. If y'all gained any type of insight from the video, please leave a like, please leave a comment. It's really gonna help the channel grow. If you guys are new to the channel, I do put out 4 videos a month. That's 2 beat breakdowns, just like I did today. I break down my own samples, and I also do a sample flip challenge. So with that being said, I'm gonna catch y'all next week for the sample flip challenge. Until then, stay blessed.